Strong Wind's Bride, a legend from the Algonquin Indians. Once upon a time, in a beautiful wigwam on the shores of a broad lake, there lived a mighty warrior. Not only was he strong and brave, but he also had the power to make himself invisible, like the wind, and so he was called Strong Wind. No one had ever seen Strong Wind but his sister. He brought her many deer and supplied her with good things to eat from the forest and lake, and with the finest blankets and garments. But when visitors came, all they ever saw of Strong Wind were his moccasins, for when he took them off, they became visible, and his sister hung them up. One spring day, Strong Wind's sister walked along the shore of the lake to the nearby village. There she made an announcement to the people. "You all know of my brother Strong Wind, who is kind and brave, but invisible to all eyes except my own. He has decided that the time has come for him to marry. He will marry the girl who can see him and tell me his true appearance." After that, every day at sunset, many girls walked along the lake shore to Strong Wind's wigwam, where they found his sister waiting. And as Strong Wind came home in the twilight, pulling behind him a sled piled with deer or other animals from the hunt, she asked, "Do you see my brother?" And some of the girls said no, but many answered, "Yes, I see him." "If you can see him," said the sister, "then tell me, what does he use to pull his sled?" And one girl would answer, "A strip of rawhide," while another would say, "A strong cord." Then Strong Wind's sister knew they had lied, and she sent them home, for Strong Wind would not marry one who was untruthful. Now in the village by the lake there lived a poor man who had 3 daughters. The youngest daughter was kind and gentle and loved by all, but the older 2 were jealous, and they treated her very cruelly. They gave her only rags to wear, they cut off her braids, and they forced her to work over the fire so that the sparks burned her hands and face. "Now who will want to marry you, you ugly burnt-faced girl?" they cackled, and the young girl hid her face in her hands and wept. One day, the elder sisters put on their finest clothes, braided their hair, and draped themselves with necklaces and bracelets. Together, they strutted along the lake shore to meet Strong Wind's sister, in hopes of marrying the mighty warrior. Soon Strong Wind returned from his day's hunting, and his sister asked the girls, "Do you see my brother?" "Of course we see him," they replied. "If you can see him, then tell me, what does he use to pull his sled?" "He uses a cord made from the hide of a moose," they said. At once Strong Wind's sister knew they had lied. "Very well," she said softly. "Let us return to the wigwam." The girls helped Strong Wind's sister cook the evening's meal. As they finished cooking, the door of the wigwam moved to one side. Then, as the girls watched in amazement, they saw the supper they had prepared disappear, bite by bite. Then they watched as the sister held out her hands and took a pair of moccasins that seemed to float in mid-air and hung them up. After that, the girls neither saw nor heard anything more, and they went home in shame. "It's not fair," they whined. "No one can see him." "Perhaps I will," said the youngest sister. The elder girls laughed at her and called her a fool. "And even if you did see him," they cried, "do you think he would ever marry you with your scarred face and chopped off braids?" But the youngest sister said nothing and went patiently about her work. In the afternoon, the burnt-faced girl walked deep into the woods and gathered strips of white bark from the birch trees. She sewed the pieces of bark together to make a dress and a cap, and on them she carved pictures of birds and beasts, flowers and trees and the sun and the moon and the stars. And then she put on a pair of her father's old worn-out moccasins, for she had no other shoes to wear. And as she made her way along the lake, her sisters saw her and laughed. "Go home," they shrieked. "Strong Wind will never marry an ugly girl like you. Go home." But when Strong Wind's sister met the girl, she smiled and said, "Welcome. Will you come with me to meet my brother?" Together they walked to where the trees of the forest met the waters of the lake. And as the sun set, Strong Wind's sister asked, "Do you see him?" But the girl answered sadly, "No, I do not see him." Strong Wind's sister smiled again, because the girl had told the truth. A few moments later she asked, "Do you see him now?" The girl gazed out through the twilight. Suddenly she cried, "Oh, I do see him, I do, and he's wonderful." "Tell me," said his sister, "what does he use to pull his sled?" "Oh, he pulls his sled with the rainbow." The sister's eyes lit up. "And can you tell me," she asked, "of what is his bowstring made?" "His bowstring," said the burnt-faced girl, her voice filled with wonder, "is the Milky Way, the wide road of stars that stretches across the sky." Then Strong Wind's sister said, "Surely my brother has looked past your burnt, scarred face and seen your beautiful, gentle heart, for he has made himself visible to you. You have seen him and spoken truly." Then she took the girl by the hand and led her to the wigwam, and bathed her with cool, clear dew until the burns and the scars all disappeared from her body and face. Her skin became smooth and soft, and her hair grew long and black again, like a raven's wing. Then Strong Wind's sister gave the girl a beautiful dress and a necklace of porcupine quills to wear, and invited her to sit in the bride's seat in the wigwam. When Strong Wind entered, he smiled at her and said, "So, we have found each other at last." And she simply answered, "Yes, at last." The very next day, she became his wife, and they lived ever afterwards in great happiness. Thank you so much for watching and listening today. Please don't forget to give us a thumbs up, and if you make that red subscribe button turn gray, you'll never miss another story. Bye!